Good morning. I'm at Strangeland and just give me 5 minutes to make a coffee and then we will start this new episode. Okay, coffee's done. It's 9:50 in the morning and I'm at Strangeland, my studio in La Rochelle, which is my tattoo studio, but also an association, do you call it a charity, but also an atelier, a place where I can create and I can invite artists and friends to create with me, and also I can invite people to learn some practice with me. Before we start, if you don't know this podcast, I am Nicoz Balboa, and this podcast is Balboa Park. I am a trans man, I'm Italian, and I live in France. I live in a small town by the ocean called La Rochelle. I've been living in France since more than 20 years. I have a teen daughter and I'm a mom. As I was saying, I do tattoos and also graphic novels that are published in Italy and in France. And I recorded this podcast because I want to talk about the creative process and my creative process as a way of knowing myself. So, welcome to episode 23. If you are following this podcast, maybe you already listened to episode 22, in which I was talking about creating content, what's the difference, and I was asking myself a lot of questions, and I thought that it could be fun to go a little bit more deep into it. I don't give answers in this podcast because I am no one, and I guess that anyone has to find their answer. But I like to talk about all this because sometimes only by, as we say in France, like liberating the word, liberating the speech, maybe ideas can take form in different ways. Today's episode will be about creating, and probably the next one will be about creating content. Don't think about creating content for your social media for now. Let's don't go down that rabbit hole for today. Let's focus and concentrate and feel how it feels of creating. What is creating? Like the moment in which you enjoy your art practice. And what's your art practice? I don't know. Maybe let me know. If you listen to this podcast, let me know. My art practice is basically drawing, graphic journaling. In those moments when I want to empty my brain, I like doing silly collages on my graphic journal. And the other day I spent the last two days trying this monotype and monoprint techniques that I don't own yet. And so I ended up painting a bunch of color stains, that trying to make it like into a drawing. Maybe I will post it in here. If you are listening to this podcast, I don't know from where, maybe you want to know that the native place for this podcast is on Substack, and that every episode often comes with in your email. When you subscribe to my newsletter, you receive the podcast, and often I put some text and image. So I will probably put those picture of those experimentation in the Substack as a bonus for the ones who are subscribing to my newsletter. For me, is visual art. I was thinking about this episode, and as I do for the graphic journaling practice, my way of have access to, it's not maybe only my way. I use this technique. It's like I do lists. It's not only my way, because I probably can bet that you do it too. When you do your grocery shopping, you do a list. You don't need to write down the whole receipt in order to know what you need to buy. The things, the magical effect of making list is like you can access very fast your brain. You can pick your brain. So I did a list to find all the way I approach my creating. And I'm not talking about techniques, and I'm not talking about like there is no best technique or best way of making arts. I will just talk about practical things that I do. Some of them are silly, some of them maybe are not so silly. Maybe those are things that you already do, or maybe those are things that you, once you listen them, that when I tell you, you are like, oh yes, this is simple, but I didn't talk about it. I use a lot of timers. I set timers. And when it's not about, I set a timer like actually with my telephone for X number of minutes or seconds, then after the timer goes like beep, beep, beep. Sometimes it can be, I can set timers for locking me outside of social media. For example, I use this app. I'm not paid. I'm not famous enough in this podcast to be paid to anything, but I I'm a very good public. Each Instagram ad, I click on it. I like, for me, cookies are my, like, I'm happy when I have a ad that is relevant to my life. Anyway, it's like this get my daughter like mad at me because I'm such a good prospect customer for Instagram ad. Anyway, I got this ad from this for this app called Opal, and Opal is like a timer in which you can lock yourself out of social media. You can pick which social media you want to lock yourself out of. For me, it's like a day-long timer. I set a timer from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And when I need to access social media, because for work, for posting stories about Strangeland or anything that need to be done like very fast, I set a snooze on the timer. So on Opal, you can choose like between, I guess, 1 minute to 15 minute snoozing. And so it's like a reverse timer. So I know that even though maybe I need like 15 minutes scrolling because I need it. And so I set this kind of timer, but also sometimes there are timers that are songs. So there are a lot of meme around this because my daughter is a Swifties and she initiated me to Taylor Swift, and now I like Taylor Swift too, because I guess that when I listen to Taylor Swift, it makes me think to my daughter, and I guess it's fun and it's a good connection with my teen daughter. And so there is this song which is in a new version, because if you don't know about Taylor Swift, she do a lot of like, now she's doing a lot of different version because she couldn't add the right to her first records. And so she's re-recording all those records in not, so the old version are like the stolen version from the people who has the right. I don't know. It's like now she's re-recording all these songs and they are Taylor's version. And so there is this song that in this new version is like 10 minutes long. And sometimes also with my daughter, when we need to put a 10-minute timer, we just put this song. So sometimes a timer can be a song and you can say, okay, I have this X amount of time. Maybe I will do a playlist with this amount of times to which I can turn every day. And I have this music that lasts those amount of minutes. And maybe it's my pause, or maybe it's the time I give myself to make my graphic journal. And it's less frustrating that having a timer then goes like beep, 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 beep in your ear. I do a lot of this kind of timer with mantra songs. For me, it works very well because mantras on song are very, very, very repetitive. And when I have the whole day, I could put one song and repeat the whole day. And I don't know if for everybody's like this, but if you have ADHD, this is a very, very good hack of having your brain like being relaxed by the repetition of the same song. But when I don't have a lot of oh my when I don't have a lot of time, listening to a mantra, it's give me the same effect because it's often the same words over and over, and so I can relax very fast. And I know that when the song finished, and maybe it's often there are songs that goes by 10, 15, sometimes also 20 minutes and more, I can, okay, the song is over and maybe I can manage to stop. Sometimes I can also put timer, like very strong hardcore timer, or alarms, because I know that maybe I have the beginning of the afternoon to draw, but I have an appointment at, I don't know, 4 p.m. And this is also an ADHD thing. If I know that I have this appointment, it will be very, very, very difficult for me to relax and doing something else, because I can maybe then forgot my appointment, or I can go into an hyper focus. And also like sometimes it's very difficult to start something else because my brain is stuck on these things I have to do in the middle of the afternoon. And so I stay like paralyzed since the morning. And so I put alarms so I can go into my creativity, into my creative space, because then I know that maybe 1 hour before, or I don't know, 2 hours, or it depends how much time you need to get ready. The alarm, very strong and violent sound of the alarm, which goes off, and then I will snap out of my concentration and I can go on and prepare myself to the appointment. And then sometimes also what can happen is doing something creative, doing something for my creative process first thing in the morning, because often for me, but I guess it's something that it's pretty universal. It's like the first things you do in the morning, often they set the time. And I know that sometimes if I start my day watching half an hour of reels, then it's very difficult to go back into something else. So I try to set the time, but I also often time fail. As I was saying, sometimes I wake up and I just watch half an hour of reels. The thing is, failure happens, and what helped me, it's like first thing first, like talking about it, because when I fail, I'm quoting with my finger, fail, it's maybe a big word, but it feels like a failure, like, I had only this morning before going to the studio to tattoo, but I wanted to take this time to draw on this at home, and I couldn't manage because I was in a rabbit hole of reels about, I don't know, giving a second life to thrift furniture, things that I don't even do. And sometimes I guess the first thing to do, because often when we miss, we fail, we feel like we failed our creative process. It's very easy to shame ourselves. For me, it's like I go into this shaming, like, oh, I can't even manage to wake up at 5 to have 2 hours in doing paintings, or I don't know. And then I shame myself for shaming myself, of course, because like, oh, it's bad to shame myself. I should have not shamed myself. And so it's can be an eternal, circle. So for me, what's very useful is to talk about it, because when you talk about it, you notice it. And so when you notice it, you are not taking this shame and failing seriously. You can talk to a friend, to one of your lover, or to your lover, or maybe you can record the podcast as I'm doing it right now. Anyway, fails happens, shit happens, and sometimes we just want to zone out on Instagram and TikTok, I don't know. And just notice it and don't be so identified with this. Like, I'm not a failure. I failed. I'm not bad for not being the perfect idea of the artist I have in my mind, but also I'm just human and it's okay. And I talk about this because I do this a lot. Even though I know how it feels to be connected, to be in this good place of creativity and feeling like in the present moment and enjoying the process, I have a very high chatty mental activity, and so I judge myself a lot, and sometimes I judge myself for not drawing enough or not being able to being professional enough. Sometimes I judge myself because I don't use enough colors, or sometimes it's like silly things. I also judge myself because I live in a small town, even though I like doing it. I like my life, I love my life, but there is also always this little voice of judging in my head that goes like, yes, you enjoy life like on the seaside, but enjoying life will not make you a good artist, because you would be a better artist if you didn't choose enjoy life. But if you choose to live in a big town who has a lot of possibility for artists and big galleries, and you know, maybe it's true, I don't know, but it is what it is. And I I know for sure that self-judgment doesn't feel good, and I want to feel good. So this is something that you can do when you talk about it. And then after all this, the next step will be start again, start clean sheet. How do you say? It's like, okay, I judge myself. This morning I wanted to draw. This morning I wanted to meditate. This morning I wanted to do yoga before picking up leaves in the park, or to do some observation drawing or something like this. But I didn't do it. You didn't do it, and it's okay. So stop and then start again. What also work for me, it sometimes is like try to set some goals. And setting the goals doesn't mean to having a vision board and obsess with it and go into this new age encourage self-development, manifesting, or things like this. Or you can do it if you want, but you can also just cleaning, set the goals in the very way maybe you can set a boundary. And so it's like, okay, I feel that I would like to work for an exhibition. I would like exhibit my work, or maybe what I would like to do is like publish my poems, or and then you think about what can you do to go toward this goal, and it doesn't have to be like I want to win the Nobel Prize, even though you don't even write a line. Nobel Prize for literature. Maybe you want to win a Nobel Prize for peace, or no. But the thing is, like, goals must be something we want, but then we must also take the time to break down those goals into steps. And maybe can be just like, okay, what is the next step I can take, the next 3 steps I can take toward these goals? And then maybe I realize that, yes, I would like to have a big exhibition. But before the exhibition, yes, I need to have a gallery. Yes, but before a gallery, I need to have a portfolio or a website. Yes, but before that, maybe I need to have, I don't know, 50 painting or 20 painting, or at least I need to know what I want to paint. Or so sometimes you can break down those goals into action that you can take right now or tomorrow. And then there is another item of the list I wrote down, and it's like, it's good to enjoy making your own art, but also but also sometimes, I guess often, is also like go enjoy going see art somewhere else, not your own. Go in galleries that are a free option, or in museums. A museum can be free option, depends where do you live, or can be cheap options, or can be festivals, about art festival, or but it's not enough enjoying the art, because I enjoy go to the museums or galleries a lot, going looking at something that is displayed as beauty, as art, can be very, at least for me, it feels very good. But the next step will be go there without judging it. And judging means in good and in bad. Sometimes you can look at something and for me at least, my brain goes, oh, this art is like, it's horrible, I'm better than this. Or sometimes it can be, this art is too good, I am horrible. These provoke the same effect, even though there is one kind of judgment that you don't want to express with word, and maybe the other you can, especially if it's an exhibition and the artist maybe it's near you, you don't want to say out loud, oh, this is horrible, I'm such better than this, and maybe you want to say, this is very good. But also, like, it would be very weird if you go to an exhibition, you say, this is so good, and then out loud, I am such a horrible painter. Like, don't make it about you in any way. Enjoy those moments of strolling through a gallery or a museum, and get inspired. Get inspired by other artists. Use those moments as a school for your connection to an art practice. And of course, I'm talking about galleries and museums, but maybe you are a musician, or maybe you dance. I don't know. This can be probably applied to other things, maybe also things that are not artistic. I don't know. Let me know. Get inspired by other artists and remember the episode 21, in which I talk about jealousy. And if you didn't listen to it, well, go listening to it. Turn this jealousy, observe this jealousy, and turn it into admiration and goal setting into what you want for your artistic career. And then also on my list, there is enjoy the creative process. Create your nest, create your artistic space. Remember, I talk about this in episode number 10. Your creative nest can be a place, your studio, but if you don't have a studio, can be one piece of furniture in your house. Or if you can't have this and you are like more roaming around your house or coffee places, maybe your creative space, it's your journal, it's your art journal. Enjoy this space, this process. And maybe one last thing I would add on the list would be find a community to share and talk about what you do. Maybe it's your BFF who's an artist like you, and you can have conversation around all this. I know that I have a lot of conversation around all this. With my BFF, with my friend Nini, Virginie Rouvière, who's a very talented artist. And also I have those kind of conversation with my partner, Justine. We talk a lot about this, and they are visual artists, but also a writer. And so it's funny to see how the creative process is like accessing this specific space in your own brain, in your own soul, I don't know. And it doesn't matter then how it translates in the real world. Is like by writing or by drawing and probably by dancing, I don't know. But the importance, I guess, it's like being able to access those spaces. Maybe for some people can be connecting to this part of themselves by cooking or by practicing sport. I don't know. I would like to know more about this. If you are there and you listen, please let me know. So find a community, and sometimes can be a community online, sometimes can be on Instagram. If you are listening to this podcast and you are a listener and you already tried or want to try the graphic journal, remember that I have an online community. It's a very old school space because it's a Facebook group. I know, right? We are not on Discord or Slack or I don't know. It's still a plain old-fashioned Facebook group that has almost 10 years. And so I don't feel like move it somewhere else, not for now. And if you want to come and join it, it's Nicoz Balboa Graphic Journal Club. And you can ask to join, and there you can come and share your graphic journal pages. I guess it's all for today. I would like to know more about you and about your process. Let me know. Maybe you can add more items on this list and share it with me. Or maybe you can try those things I was talking about for 1 week and see how is it going, how it goes. Don't forget to subscribe to my newsletter. All the infos are on my website, which is nicozbalboastudio.com, and there you have all the links to the graphic journal, the newsletter, the podcast, my tattooing, my tattoo studio. Anyway, everything is there. Um, and yeah, maybe you can also uh, leave an honest review or 5 star around this podcast. And I talk to you next episode. We will we will be talking about creating content. Bye bye.